Well, I'm in the shop today, and for a change this summer, it's not raining, but the heat index is up over 100 degrees. I mean, it's just crazy. The dew point is like 75 or 76 degrees today, and the air temperature is about 92. So I thought I would do a chore that I could do here in the coolness of the shop, which is showing you how to disassemble a Colt 1860 Army. Because I just picked this up. This is what they call the Sheriff's model, because it only has a 5.5-inch barrel as opposed to the 8-inch barrel that they should have. But I thought this would be a fun gun to shoot. So, as I think you know, before I take a gun out to the range, I usually go through it, polish it up, deburr it. So I'm going to do that today. I'm not going to show you that because I've got a number of other videos showing you that. So if you look at the 1851 Navy video or the 1849 pocket model video, it's all the same procedure. But I'm going to show you disassembly because I know a lot of people won't find the disassembly instructions by looking up the 1851 Navy, because they're going to be searching for the specific gun and they don't realize that they all come apart pretty much the same. So I'm going to show you how to do the Army, which is the same as the Navy, which is the same as virtually everything except the Walker and the Patterson. That's pretty simple. We'll start off with the gun on half cocked. Now I've already replaced the nipples with slick shot nipples. Alright, so with the gun on half cock, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this wedge driver and I'm going to remove the barrel retaining wedge. And I got to say, this is a very tight fit. Not so much tight, I should say. The spring up top here is very strong. There we go. So it doesn't want to depress. I've taken this apart once before just to kind of get it apart and degrease it a little. But once that spring is depressed, it goes fairly easily. So now the easy way to remove a barrel is to get it on half cock and then just push the loading lever, because that'll pull it off of the pins and you can remove the barrel. And once that's done, we can remove the cylinder, and we've got the three major components. Now if you wanted to strip the barrel down any farther, you would just remove this screw right here on the loading lever, and once that's out, it allows you to pull the loading lever out, and you can just put that aside and just screw it back together so I don't lose it. There we go. So now we've got the major components: barrel, cylinder, frame with the grip assembly. So the next step is to take off the back strap. So I'm going to loosen the bottom screw, just get a little tension off of it, and then I'm going to go in and I'm going to take out each of these screws behind the shoulder of the grip. Now you can see that this is a larger screw than the other two screws. It's bigger on the Army than it is on the Navy. Alright, now the grip frame comes off. I'm going to put the screws back in the hole, and that way I know what goes where when I put it back together. Okay. Now, I'm gonna loosen the tension on the mainspring. Now with some of these, you can just slide the spring right out, just like that. Now some of them are too long to do that, but if you can, then that's what you want to do. All right, I can see this one is marginal, but I can get it by. Okay, I may actually, when I work on this, take that down just a little bit. This makes it a lot easier to reassemble later if you can slide the spring in and out instead of having to compress it in and out. Now without that spring tension, it makes it very easy to remove the trigger guard. So I'm going to pull out the 3 screws that hold it. Alright, I'm going to put these screws back in their holes so I don't lose them. Alright, that one just wants to be a pain in the butt. Okay, now we've got the action, we can start stripping it. Alright, when we're disassembling the action, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to remove the trigger and bolt spring, and that's held with one large screw right in the front. So we just got to get in there and get that out. I'm going to put that aside. Now, next thing to come out is the trigger. The trigger and the bolt are both held in with what are known as pin screws. So I'll show you why they're called pin screws in just a minute. Alright, so as you can see, they got a set of threads right at the base, and then it's a long pin, and that's actually what the trigger pivots on. Right? And the bolt is in with the exact same sort of arrangement. So we're just going to take apart this. Now these days they're making these screws, I believe, equal length. On original Colts, this screw, the one for the bolt, was shorter. Now I'm going to go in and I'm going to pry the bolt out because it's got a little tension on it with the hammer. Alright, so let's see, same, right? Put that aside. Alright, now last thing to come out is the hammer in hand. So we got one screw, and then the hammer in hand pulls right out the bottom. And that is complete disassembly of the gun. We got a bare frame now. Alright, so now I'm going to do my bit polishing this up, and when that's done, I'll show you how it goes back together. Okay, I've got the action polished up a bit, now it's time to put it back together. So we're going to start with the hammer in the hand, and put a little drop of ballistol on both sides of the hammer. Alright, so the little pin on the hammer goes into that hole. A little pin on the hand, I should say, goes into this hole in the hammer right here. And then you just get the hammer, the hand up into that slot and line up the hole, and you can screw it in. Now I gotta say, this is one area where Pieta is definitely better than Uberti, because Uberti is a pain in the butt getting the handspring up into the hand slot. they've got kind of a shelf machined in there that I usually have to file off, or it's very difficult to get the hand in, which makes it impossible, of course, to get the hammer in. Alright, and that's all functioning just fine. So now we can start to put the action in. And the first piece we're going to put in will be the bolt, right, which is this piece here. So we're just going to drop it in so that the bolt goes into its slot. And you might have to cock the hammer a little bit to do that. And then we're going to put the screw pin right through, wiggle it and line it up, and then screw it in. There we go. Give me a second to get a little more light on this. There we go. Okay. So the next piece to go in is going to be the trigger. All right, with its screw pin. So we're going to get the trigger in here, kind of lined up with the hammer. Get the holes lined up and screw it in. These guns are very simple to work on. Okay, now we need to put the bolt trigger spring back in. So we want to get the long leg of the trigger spring on the shelf of the trigger. All right, line up the hole. Kind of get the screw in. All right. This one is a pain in the butt to do on camera with a magnetic screwdriver. Magnetic screwdrivers are great, and I use Brownell's Magnetips, but they tend to attract everything, not just the screws, and that can make things lift out of position. Okay, we get that torque down. Trigger spring's good. Bolt rises, locks up, everything is fine. Alright, so I'm going to take a little bit of ballistol, and I'm just going to dot that. Boop, boop, boop. Okay. There we go. So the action's together. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to put on the grip assembly. And I've got the spring swung aside, and one of the things I did while it was off is I grounded a more rounded profile on the nose of the spring, which I think will make it easier to install. And if it doesn't, I'll just grind some more off. So we're just going to put these 3 screws back in. There we go. And for some reason, this is usually not that hard to get started, but maybe because it's the first time. All right, then we're going to do the base. Don't torque any of these down yet. You just want to get them started. All right, we just want to get them started. Because having a little bit of slop in them is good for swinging the mainspring back in. So now I'm going to take the mainspring and depress with my thumb and just put it underneath the hammer. And now I'm going to torque everything down. Little at a time. Until we're all the way down. There we go. There we go. There we go. And now I'm going to tighten up the spring screw. Okay. Alright, so the next step is to put on the back strap. Get the screws out. There we go. Alright, I always start by putting on the bottom screw and just getting it started. That's all I want to do. Just get it started. Okay. Because a lot of these guns, particularly these Italian guns, don't always line up perfectly. I know it's going to be a shock to you guys. Alright, so I'm going to start putting in the shoulder screws. Once I get one started, I should have no trouble with the other one. I should have no trouble with the other one. There we go. Alright, now we can just start torquing them down. I'm not going to go all the way yet, but I'm going to bring it close. You'll find some of these things, the back strap is sprung a bit, which means it's not just going to lay right together, but it'll go together when it's screwed in tight. This one actually is pretty good. This is one of the better 1860s that I have taken apart in recent memory. So there we go. Right, we're pretty much set on the main assembly now. So now I'm going to put some ballistol on the arbor here. All right. I'm going to put on the cylinder. We're going to put the barrel back on and work the wedge in. Okay. Tippy tappy. There we go. Alright, that's working. I'm going to put the loading lever back on it. Which really, there's no reason to take the loading lever off. Unless it's really, if it's really rough, you might want to polish it up. I've not really had that issue with them though. Okay. Yeah, see, magnetic screwdrivers, can't lose a screw, but never get them where you want them either. Alright, so I'm going to put this in. It's the actual plunger, cedar. Alright, now I gotta get okay, so we got to line this up so that it's in the last hole, right? And then we can line up the holes in here. Okay, we gotta get it in the last hole. There we go. Alright, so you want the last peg and the last hole on the ratchet and pinion mechanism. The last hole inside the barrel. Now, put this back in. Tighten it. Alright. There we go. A little tight. Alright. I'm probably going to take that apart and polish it up. But that is the disassembly and reassembly of the 1860 Army. So there it be, ready to go.